This restoration project was donated to me by a follower. I knew before opening it that it was most likely going to be one of the hardest restorations I've done. But after the family shared their story with me, I couldn't bear to see it go to waste. At first I thought maybe I had the wrong package. There was so much bubble wrap, I didn't know if maybe it was something more fragile. I like to save a lot of packing materials like this to use for future shipments. After several more layers of bubble wrap, I finally got to the center, and it seemed like the gown was in a garbage bag. On top of the bag, though, there was a little surprise. I took a closer look and I couldn't quite figure out what it was yet. As I unwrapped it, it looked like it was a little pillow that was made out of the exact same silk fabric as the gown itself. I'll be sure to restore this pillow along with the dress as well. After all of this, I finally got to take a look at the gown, and it was double wrapped in here too. This one was heavy. After going through all of these layers and layers, it was finally time to go over to my trusty mannequin. When I said earlier that this gown is probably the biggest restoration project I've done yet to date, this is what I mean. The story of this gown is an interesting one. It was worn in 1966. The family who asked me if I would take on this project said that once their father passed away, their mother tucked this dress away in a garbage bag in the closet. Each family member has absolutely adored this gown, but they recognized at this point it seemed beyond repair, let alone wearable. After quite some time and a few discussions, they decided I was the one they wanted to gift this to. This is going to take everything that I've learned this past year in restoration, and I think I'm going to need a little more than this to-go Tide stick. If you want to see this before and after, follow me here. More to come soon. As promised, here's the update on the restoration of this 1966 wedding gown. And thanks for helping me reach 100,000 followers. It's so encouraging knowing all of you are as invested in this as I am. As always with my gowns, I start out first with warm water, vinegar, and Dawn dish soap. I normally use about 2 tablespoons of Dawn dish soap and about a cup of white vinegar. I know we all love taking a look at these gowns when they first dip into the water because we never know what it's going to turn out looking like. I actually ended up having to add in more water than I thought with this one because it sucked everything up. So then it was time to move on to the hand washing, and this is where I feel like I look like a little raccoon trying to wash their food. But anyway, I hand washed this for about an hour, and that water turned gross. Not to mention it was also about 100 degrees that day here in Washington. I do a lot of these processes through my live streams, so that way you guys can watch them happen in real time and ask your questions. Next, I moved on to making sure the gown was rinsed properly. After I knew the water was running clear, I moved on to add my detergent. I like to use OxiClean White Revive. For this, I used about 3 capfuls, and then I got right back to hand washing. You want to try your best to be gentle while doing this. Here are some of the photos of what the water looked like when I was done. I hung it up to dry overnight, and then the next day I got to work on all of the heavy set-in stains that didn't lift the first time. I spent hours soaking each individual stain and then going in and blotting it out. Here I had to use a diluted bleach solution, and I kept it in a controlled environment so it wouldn't spread. Over and over I'd spray the solution and then soak it back out again. This seemed to pull the majority of it out. After doing this process for what felt like forever, I decided I was going to give it one more bath. And I'm glad I did because it really seemed to unify the color. After all of this process, it was finally time to drain it out and let it drip dry. There's still a lot more to do, but this is what it looks like now. You can see where some of the stains are still there, but I'm going to do my best to get them all out. What do you guys think? I ran into a stopping point with this gown over the weekend. As you can see, it was heavily stained from water damage, there were rust stains, and possibly mold. The majority of the damage was on the train where you can see these really dark set-in stains. I got to work starting out with all of the methods I knew how to use. And although I was able to brighten up the gown and get a lot of that yellowing out, I was still left with these heavy set-in stains. I tried every method I knew how to do, from using diluted bleach because it was a heavyweight fabric, to using peroxide and baking soda to try to pull it out. Although it helped a little bit, it was definitely clear that these stains were not coming out. And with slipper satin, it can be hard to see until it's dry and in the light, but you can see it almost gives like this shadow. Plus, there were still a lot of stains throughout the gown. So while I was in the grocery store the other day, thinking about all of the random stuff you guys told me to use, I found this product. Make sure to pause to read the ingredients and the instructions. It comes in a great biodegradable box, and it's a wax stick, so there's no waste in plastic. The reason I picked it up though is because it contained a lot of the ingredients that you guys were recommending, including different kinds of citrus oils. I'd never heard of it before, but I was excited to try it out as my final attempt. The directions were really easy. It said you just wet the area and use the product on the stain. I started by working from the outside and working towards the inside of the stain because this was a large area to cover. And because it's a wax stick, you can start to feel the resistance if the product isn't setting into the fabric, which was really useful. I did this on the two big main stains in the back. The next step of it was to go in and rub the fabric together. To try your best to agitate the stain to get it to lift. So this was just the water and the product. My most shocking thing though to me honestly was that this product was only $8. I've used hardly any of it. A Tide to Go stick is $8 and wouldn't have even covered a fraction of this. So now it was time for me to rinse the product out, so I just got a bowl of clean warm water and started to hand wash it. It actually felt really soft on my hands too and left them feeling more hydrated rather than dried out. After I did that, I took a look and there was still a little bit of staining left, but I cannot tell you how shocked I was that it was taking this all out, so I decided to try it again. I continued rinsing in clean bowls of water until the water ran clear, and I did this for all of the big stains that I had lifted. The other thing I like too is it doesn't have some sort of synthetic smelling fragrance. It's just really light and fresh. Natural, I guess you would say. But look at this result. This was with it still soaking wet. After I saw how successful this was, I decided to start going through the gown where I was finding a lot of stains that not even the bleach or OxiClean detergent could lift. So I wanted to test it out further, and sure enough, it gave fantastic results. So I let the gown dry overnight, and as of this morning, here's what the stains look like. They are completely gone. I can't wait to show you guys what this looks like once I have it completely finished and pressed and steamed and displayed on the mannequin. Nellie's Wow Stick is definitely going to be added to my collection. It's finally time for me to get to show you all what happened with this restoration. I'm sure you remembered what this dress looked like before. This was by far one of the biggest restoration projects I've done, but the result is so worth it. It took about a week and a half, and I ended up spending about 20 hours on this restoration, but I don't feel like a single minute was wasted. This gown was very well loved by the original owner. Their whole family came together to decide what was best to do with it. And after it had been sitting in a closet, water-stained in a garbage bag for many years, I was delighted that they picked me to go ahead and do this restoration. I'm shocked by how full this skirt is. I had no idea that there was this much fabric. What once looked so tight-fitting now had fullness and volume. Plus, it feels like it must have shed about 10 pounds from everything it was holding on to. Overall, even I'm impressed with how this turned out. It took some investing and it took some learning some new things, but I absolutely love it. Although this gown already found its second chance, there are plenty more still waiting. Thanks for watching this full restoration. I look forward to sharing the next story with you. Be sure to follow along if you'd like to see more.